This week, Facebook's parent company Meta announced that it's going to open corporate offices in Durham and plans to have a significant presence in the Triangle area. A WRAL TechWire article quoted a local real estate agent, Matt Lunsford-Blivin, saying that home prices in the Triangle will double in the next 5 to 10 years because of this event. True? False? I'm going to dig into the real facts on the ground so we can all know how significantly the Triangle real estate market will be impacted by Facebook's move into the Triangle. Will this move protect us from the impending market fluctuations? I personally would really like to know because I just went under contract for a house. I know some of you have been watching a while and you know I've been in the market to buy a home. Personally, I was kind of waiting for the bidding to slow down just a little bit before I purchased because my theory was that the market wasn't going to crash, but prices were going to stop spiking like they had been, and I didn't feel like fighting over all of those multiple offers. So even though I expected prices to continue to increase slightly after the spiking stopped, that was okay with me as long as I didn't have to fight. When making my offer, I did have to go up against some multiple offers, and there were several properties very close to the home that I purchased that were sitting on the market for over a week. Given that situation, even for me, someone who knows the market extremely well, it's still a little nerve-wracking because you all know my crystal ball is still in the shop. And on top of that, we've decided not to sell our current home. We kind of feel like even with the uncertainty, holding onto real estate in the Triangle market is a smart move. Believe me, we actually had a moment where we thought we had lost our minds. And then this announcement about Facebook hits the newsstands and I was shaken back into reality. At any rate, you can rest assured that the research I've done for this video is the real deal. I'm always curious about market trends because I just find it fascinating, but in this case, it really hit home. Before we can understand how Facebook's move will impact our market, let's look a little bit at where Facebook has been before. Facebook got its start in the mid-2000s in California, where its current headquarters still remains. They have 15,000 employees in their Menlo Park headquarters, and they have 96 office locations across 35 countries. The majority of their additional offices in the US are data centers, where they basically have server farms, which seem to be in rural areas. They're not big corporate offices where they have many higher paid engineers, but it appears that their Triangle office will be a corporate office because most of these server farms have about 200 employees, and Facebook has said that they expect to have a significant presence in the Triangle. What does significant mean? We don't know yet, but I don't think it's 200 employees. But a significant presence should have some kind of an impact on the local real estate market, at least according to Matt Lunsford-Blivin. Let's look at what he had to say about the expansion. Durham-based realtor Matt Lunsford-Blivin of Nest Realty said he expects Meta's impact on home buying to be like when Apple and Google announced they were coming to the Triangle in 2021. Blivin mentioned how median sales prices have increased partially due to the influx of California-based companies in the Triangle. I have a problem with the reasoning this agent used to support his idea that property values will double in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying that his reasoning does not support his opinion, and we have a lot more work to do to determine if he's even close to a good hypothesis. Can you guess what my issue is? Okay, well, I'm just going to tell you. Apple and Google announced coming to the Triangle in 2021, but first of all, the Apple campus is going to take years to build out. They do have some temporary space in Cary, but they've said that it's going to take years to get to their projected 3,000 employees. Same with Google. They only expect to have 300 employees by the end of this year, 2022. People didn't suddenly rush to North Carolina for those two things. And maybe this is a newsflash, but the incredible real estate boom was not limited to the Triangle. This happened in practically every small to medium-sized city and many large cities and small towns across the country. The real estate boom was primarily related to a shift in people being able to work remotely and a significant disconnect between our supply and demand, not to an announcement here in Raleigh about new companies. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be an impact on our economy from these companies. I absolutely believe there will be a significant impact on the real estate market from all of this economic growth, but there is a more concrete way to measure and predict what's happening and what will happen. I have said this before, but at the risk of being annoying, I'm going to say it again. I think Raleigh is the next Austin market. I think we're going to see a mirror of what has happened in Austin over the last 20 years happen here in Raleigh and the Greater Triangle area over the next 10 to 15 years because we've already started that 20-year cycle. Let me tell you what I mean. In 1990, Austin started to become known as a tech hub, and because of that, people started to call Austin the Silicon Hills. This moniker came to be because people recognized Austin's techie similarities to Silicon Valley, which was basically the ground zero for the tech industry, where most of today's big players were incubated when they were little babies. combined with the hilly landscape of Austin's Central Texas location. Today, Austin is home to too many large tech companies to count. IBM, Dell, Intel, Blizzard, eBay, Google, Facebook, Apple, Roku, Adobe, Cisco, Oracle, and Amazon all have a presence in Austin. The driving factor behind Austin's economy, though, is not just the big businesses that are located there. It's what brought them there in the first place. Austin is an incubator for startup companies. Currently, Austin is home to 2,200 startups. So what makes a place a good startup location? Hatch IT is a consulting company that works specifically with tech startups. When they help their clients find locations for their startups, they look for a diverse and highly educated population, a history and culture of entrepreneurship, accessibility, business resources, and tax incentives. Raleigh and Austin have so much in common in these areas. We are both home to major top-ranking universities and have a history and culture of entrepreneurship. Both companies attracted major tech firms in their very early years back in the 1960s, when both companies were somewhat rural communities. In fact, many of the oldie tech companies in Austin also have a presence in Raleigh. Companies like IBM, Dell, and Cisco were some of the early inhabitants of Raleigh's RTP, and they have a presence in Austin as well. In 2017, Hatch IT was looking for a location for one of their clients because they had exhausted their local talent pool. This is the reason that companies relocate to new areas. Eventually, current tech hubs get too saturated for more people, and there simply isn't enough room to attract new talent, especially young talent. They have to go somewhere else to find it. That's what happened in California, and many of those companies went to Austin, and now that is what's happening here. Raleigh is the new Austin. Hatch IT says about that search back in 2017, we considered many metro areas, including Northern Virginia, Baltimore, Richmond, Pittsburgh, and Atlanta. None of them stood out like the Triangle, which consists of Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. For tech companies, Raleigh is a goldmine of talent. We are so excited to get there before the rush and to be a resource the startup community will need. At the time that article was written in 2017, Raleigh was home to 150 startups. By 2020, that number had quadrupled to 600 startups. Raleigh is the next Austin. Now, what's really interesting to look at is Austin's real estate prices over the years. What stuck out to me the most is that Austin has almost never had a year when real estate lost value. Since 1990, there have been 2 years that have seen a decrease in the median home price in Austin, and both of those years, the decrease was only 1%. That happened in 2004 and in 2009. When other real estate markets were crashing, Austin was chilling like a villain. Like everywhere else, Austin saw an increase in property values of 34% in 2021, which is about the same as the Triangle. Is there any evidence that the Raleigh real estate market will double in value over the next 10 years? I think we can get some indication from the Austin market. I happen to think that the last 2 years, from 2020 to today, are a complete anomaly, so I don't want to include that data in my analysis. But if we take the 10-year period from 2009 to 2019, the Austin median home price increased 69% over that time. The median price went from $184,000 to $312,000 during those years. And if we look at the previous 10 years, we can see that the median value went from $125,000 to $184,000, which is an increase of 47%. I only have data for the 9 years before that, but let's go with it. It increased from $72,000 to $125,000. That's an increase of 73%. If we average those 3 10-year periods together, that gives us an average of a 63% property value increase for a 10-year period. I think that is a pretty good estimate for the Raleigh market. So I disagree that the market will double in 5 years. I think that's way over the top, even in 10 years. And I did a video analysis kind of like this one, which I'll link at the end, showing why I don't think we're going to be the next San Francisco. But I do think we're going to see some really good appreciation. Right now, Raleigh's median home price is $448,000. If it increases 63% over the next 10 years, the median home will be worth $730,000. Now, some of you might say that gas prices are through the roof and there's a war in Ukraine and everything else going on in the world. And I would say to that, yes, world events can impact growth in economies. But while it's not a direct comparison, we did see the dot-com bubble burst and the war in Iraq during the period we just discussed in Austin from 1990 to today. Could I be wrong about all this? My crystal ball is still in the shop, but I'm not terminating my contract on my new house. If you like this video, you might also like this one, where I tell you whether I think the Raleigh housing market is going to end up like San Francisco.